Hey everyone, welcome to my channel or welcome back. My name is Miriam and today I'm doing a book haul. So I love how I just did an unhaul and I talked about the fact that I don't have enough space in my house, my room, for all the books that I keep accumulating. I unhauled around 15 books I think, and I have over 20 to haul today. So I know that this is an extremely relatable circumstance to be in when you not only love to read books, but love to collect books. It is a problem. So these are all books I've collected from January and February. A lot of them I actually thrifted, which I'm really happy about. And then some of them were also gifted to me, which was awesome, by my lovely mom and brother. So I'm very, very thankful to them as well. So I'll start off with the books that I got from my mom. So first up, we have this boxed set of Beatrix Potter's The World of Peter Rabbit. I actually never read these books as a kid, and I read the complete Peter Rabbit collection last year, and I had borrowed the book from the library, and I loved it so much. And my mom surprised me with this box set, which is absolutely adorable. Every book, every story is in its own little volume. So there are multiple of these little tiny books and they're just absolutely adorable. It just brings so much joy to my heart to have these. And I know that I will read these to my future kids one day, and they're so special, and I'm so grateful to my mom. And I will treasure these books forever. The next book my mom got me is called Greenwood by Michael Christie. And I don't really know much about this other than it's intergenerational. It has to do with the environment, obviously. And one of the storylines is actually in the future. So I think it's 2038. And it's basically about the Greenwood family. So starting in 2038, and then it goes back to the Great Depression. And if I'm not mistaken, I think this has to do with family trauma and all the things that the main family has gone through in this book. And again, I don't know much else about it, but I have heard really good things about it, so I'm really looking forward to reading it. Next up, we have The Paris Library, which is a dual timeline historical fiction. So it's set partially at the beginning of World War II and also in the 80s. I don't like knowing too much about books before I go into it, so all I really know is that it's about a woman named Odile in the 30s and 40s during the war, and then her life in the 1980s, reflecting on her time during the war when she was part of the resistance in France. This next book is also one that I barely know anything about, and I'm totally okay with that because I have heard amazing things about it. And it is the quintessential dark academia book, and that is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. So this book, from what I know, takes place in Vermont in a university, and there's a group of students. Things happen, there's a murder, there's like a secret society if I'm not mistaken, but I don't want to know too much going into it just because I heard that it's such a heavy story. So that's The Secret History. The last book that I got from my mom is The Casebook of Sherlock Holmes by Arthur Conan Doyle. This is the very last book within the Sherlock Holmes series, I guess you could call it, but it is a short story collection. So once I've read the book that's before this one and this one, then I'll have completed all the Sherlock Holmes stories, which I'm very excited to be able to say that. Next up, I have two books that my brother was so kind to gift me, and the first one is called In a Far Off Land by Stephanie Lansom. So this book is about a woman named Minerva who is suffering from poverty, as many families were during the Great Depression, and so she moves to Hollywood where she tries to do some modeling, maybe some acting, just to kind of see if she can make some money that way. Unfortunately, she's caught up in a murder investigation and is subsequently on the run. Minerva has also made some very difficult choices in her life and is facing the consequences of those choices. And she basically feels that her life will never amount to anything, and she believes that her life will just be this life of ruin and shame. I've heard great things about this book. It is a Christian historical fiction, and I'm really looking forward to reading it. So the second book my brother gifted me is one that I am so excited to read. It's gonna happen soon, either in March or April, and that is I Must Betray You by Ruta Sepetys. I actually just read The Fountains of Silence by the same author and absolutely adored it. This woman can write historical fiction like no one else, and I am so excited to read this book, mainly because it takes place during a time and in a country that I haven't read in fiction before. So it takes place in Romania during the 1980s, basically at the height of the communist regime in Romania. So I am also Romanian, and I've heard so many stories of what it was like to live during this time from my own dad, from various people that I am close to. And I just think it's going to be an amazing experience to read this book, just knowing how close in our own past it was. Like, it wasn't that long ago that this was happening. and that people were suffering in Romania. So in this book, we have a boy named Christian, more like a teenager named Christian, and he's caught up in the revolution that is taking place very slowly and very subtly. He really wants to fight for the freedom of every single Romanian, but he's also being blackmailed by the secret police and his life is in danger. I have very high expectations for this book, so hopefully it lives up to those expectations. The next two books I'm hauling today are ones that I bought based on recommendations that I got, and I was told that I would really enjoy this series. We have Still Life by Louise Penny and The Cruelest Month, also by Louise Penny. Actually, I think this is the third book, but they were both on sale, so I just grabbed them both. So if I do like the first book, then I will also get the second book, and then I'll have the first three in the series. So I don't know anything about it other than it basically stars a inspector named Inspector Gamache, and it takes place in Quebec. And in the first book, there are multiple murders happening within like a village just outside of Montreal. So I do think this is something I would enjoy, and I'm really looking forward to trying this series out. Next, we have another mystery, and that is called Dissolution by C.J. Sanson, and this is basically a Tudor era murder mystery. It's during the reign of Henry VIII, and we have a man named Thomas Cromwell who is investigating a murder that occurred within a monastery and various other issues that are going on that have to do with like religion at the time, which was a very contentious topic. I heard really, really good things about this book. I've never read anything set during this time, and I've never even heard of a murder mystery during the Tudor era, so I'm really, really excited to read it. Next up, we have Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury, and this is a dystopian science fiction classic. So again, I don't really know anything about it, so I'll just read the back. So it says, Guy Montag was a fireman whose job it was to start fires, and he enjoyed his job. He had been a fireman for 10 years and had never questioned the pleasure of the midnight runs nor the joy of watching pages consumed by flames. Never questioned anything until he met a 17-year-old girl who told him of a past when people were not afraid. Then Guy met a professor who told him of a future in which people could think. And Guy Montag suddenly realized what he had to do. Sounds really good. I don't know. I heard really mixed reviews about this book. A lot of people seem to love it. A lot of people think it's boring. I guess we'll see what I think, but it's Fahrenheit 451. Next up, we have Lady Audley's Secret by Mary Elizabeth Braddon, and I know nothing at all about this book other than the fact that it has to do with someone who is married to a person but then marries someone else. So there's like the double marriage, and it's like there's gothic elements. I just know one of the characters' names is Lucy, and I don't remember anything else from what other people have said. I do know though that the people who I trust the most in terms of giving classics recommendations have spoken very highly about this book. So I saw it at the thrift store and I had to grab it. So these next three classics I also found at a thrift store and was so excited to see them. I have just read Evelina by Frances Burney and really enjoyed it. And so when I saw these next three books, I was so happy to be able to add them to my collection. So first up we have Cecilia by Fanny Burney, then we have Camilla, and then we have The Wanderer. So I don't know anything about these books plot-wise other than, I guess, the characters' names for Cecilia and Camilla. What I do know though is that Frances Burney writes a lot of slice of life type plots with a lot of satire and just sensationalism, and it's so much fun. I really enjoyed Evelina, as I was saying, and it was very much reminiscent of Jane Austen, who was inspired by Frances Burney. Evelina honestly felt like it wasn't meant to be taken very seriously, but I had a lot of fun reading it, and I will talk more about it when I discuss the books I read in February, but I'm very much excited to have these next three books by Frances Burney as well. This next classic is also one that I got because it was recommended to me, and that is A Town Like Alice by Neville Shute. I know nothing about it, so I will read the back. It says, Jean Paget is just 20 years old and working in Malaya when the Japanese invasion begins. When she's captured, she joins a group of other women and children whom the Japanese force to walk for miles through the jungle, leading to the deaths of many. Due to her courageous spirit, Jean takes on the role of leader of the sorry gaggle of prisoners. While on the march, the group run into an Australian prisoner, Joe Harmon, who helps them steal some food and is horrifically punished as a result. Jean's adventures and her bond with Joe form the heart of this gripping and moving story. I'm not quite sure when this takes place, but I heard really good things about it, and I heard great things about Neville Shute as an author. And again, I'm just taking all the classics recommendations that I get, and I am excited to read this. I don't think it's surprising to say I know nothing about this next book as well, and that's Don Quixote by Cervantes. I think it's a man named Don Quixote who goes on adventures. and I heard it's good, so I got it. I have a couple friends who have read it and highly recommend it, so I do think this is going to be one I really enjoy, and I hope it is. These next two books are ones that I used to have as a kid, and then I don't know what happened to them, and it's extremely difficult to find editions of these, especially affordable ones. But I found two of the books in this series on Thrift Books and was absolutely ecstatic when I saw them. And so we have Little House in Brookfield by Maria Wilkes, and we have Little Town at the Crossroads, also by the same author. So these two books are basically kind of like an attachment to the Little House on the Prairie series, but they're based on Caroline Ingalls' childhood. So Ma, or Laura's mom from the Little House books. Again, I read these as a kid and absolutely loved them. And when I saw that they were on Thrift Books, I had to have them. It's just that nostalgia and just knowing how difficult it is to find these books online. So I'm really, really excited to have them and will definitely be rereading them. This next book is one that I actually just read in February, so I won't be talking too much about it, but that is Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Sue Lynn Tan. And I will say that I really enjoyed this, and so look out for my February wrap-up where I will be talking more about this book. Next up, we have Shadowfell by Juliette Marillier. This is the first book in another series by this lovely author. And once I'm finished the Seven Waters series, I plan on continuing reading her books, starting with Shadowfell. So in this book, we have a 16-year-old girl named Naren who, in her land, the king is basically punishing anyone who uses magical abilities. Naren happens to be able to speak to the fair folk, and so to protect herself from this evil king, she escapes. She goes to this like secret training ground where the people there are basically planning to kill this king, and that's all I know about this book. I love this author and I want to read everything she's ever written. So I'm really glad I found this as well at my thrift store actually, and in decent condition for a very, very cheap price. The second book is another one that I'm extremely excited about, and that is The Man Who Died Twice by Richard Osman. This is the second book after the Thursday Murder Club, which I read in December and absolutely loved. So this book continues on following the main group from the first book, which is a group of septuagenarians, or like retirement age adults. And it seems like in this book, they have to solve another murder that occurs. And I love it. I love that they're all just like amateur detectives, and it's so much fun to follow them. And the humor's great, and I'm super excited to read this book as well. So this next book is one that I bought because Elliot Brooks over on her channel talks about it in a few of her videos and spoke very highly of it based on what I remember. And she just made it sound very good. And that is Dark of the West by Joanna Hathaway. So I actually don't remember what this is about. So the back says, Aurelia Eisendare is a princess of a small kingdom in the north, raised in privilege but shielded from politics. Athen Dakar is the youngest son of a ruthless general and a skilled fighter pilot longing for a life away from the front lines. When Athen's mother is assassinated, his father is convinced it's the work of his old rival, which is Aurelia's mother. Determined to avenge the murder, Athen goes undercover in the small northern kingdom to spy on his enemy's daughter, but his mission is compromised when both princess and pilot begin to fall for each other, a love that threatens their parents' designs for revenge. So yeah, it sounds like a very interesting kind of political intrigue kind of book, and I am very much looking forward to trying it out. Okay, so the last book I have to haul today is Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. I have heard nothing but good things about this book. I hear it is like a Disney movie in book form, and I heard the mythology, the folklore is really, really awesome in this book. So what I do know about it is that we have a girl who on the day of her betrothal, her magic basically becomes apparent, which is something she's been hiding. And this in turn causes her stepmom to like banish her. And so she's in exile, and that's all I know about the book. I know there's like a talking dragon, 6 enchanted crimson cranes, and I'm very, very excited to read this book. It sounds so sweet and fantastical and exactly the kind of YA fantasy that I enjoy. Okay, everyone, so those are the books that I have gotten in the last couple months. It's quite a lot, and hopefully this spring and summer won't be as bad. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know if you've read any of these books. I'd love to talk about them in the comments, and thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys are all doing well, and I hope to see you all in my next video. Bye!